Krishna, Krishna, Ram. I think it's working, but it wasn't working. But yes, we will start. We are starting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhari. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhari. Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Nandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari. Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Status Shisamad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki Sri Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1, Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu, Text 2. Now, we don't have sheets. Some of you got devices, though. Okay, anyway, that's the best we can do right now. So I guess I'll just read the Sanskrit myself, I suppose.
It's a Facebook problem. The sound
It's what?
It's a Facebook problem. There's something. Everything's sending through there, the sound.
Oh.
But it's off. It's not playing through Facebook.
Hare Krishna. What to do? Akutim ruchaye pradad, api bratri matim nripa, putrika dharmam ashritya, shatarupa numodita. Anyone like to have a go with a device? Okay. Akutim, akuti, ruchaye, unto the great sage Ruchi, pradat, handed over, api, although, bratri matim, daughter having a brother, Nripa, the king, putrika, get the resultant son, dharmam, religious rites, ashritya, taking shelter, shatarupa, by the wife of Swayambhuva Manu, anumodita, being sanctioned. Translation: Akuti had 2 brothers, but in spite of her brothers, King Swayambhuva Manu handed her over to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of her be returned to Manu as his son. This he did in consultation with his wife, Shatarupa. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes a sonless person offers his daughter to a husband on the condition that his grandson be returned to him to be adopted as his son and inherit his property. This is called putrika dharma, which means that by execution of religious rituals, one gets a son, although one is sonless by one's own wife. But here we see extraordinary behavior in Manu, for in spite of his having 2 sons, he handed over his first daughter to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of his daughter be returned to him as his son. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that King Manu knew that the Supreme Personality of Godhead would take birth from the womb of Akuti. Therefore, in spite of having two sons, he wanted the particular son born of Akuti because he was ambitious to have the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear as his son and grandson. Manu is the lawgiver of mankind, and since he personally executed the Putrika Dharma, we may accept that such a system may be adopted by mankind also. Thus, even though one has a son, if one wants to have a particular son from one's daughter, one may give one's daughter in charity on that condition. That is the opinion of Srila Jiva Goswami. Akutim ruchaye pradad, api bratri matim nripa, putrika dharmam ashritya, shatarupa numodita. Akuti had two brothers, but in spite of her brothers, King Swayambhuva Manu handed her over to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of her be returned to Manu as his son. This he did in consultation with his wife, Shatarupa. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachyadeshtarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so interesting sort of social practice being mentioned here. We have seen it happen in Indian families, at least, in South Africa. I'm sure it's not common, but it happens. It's something like that.
I haven't seen that particular arrangement. I've seen brothers give their daughters or sons to their brothers.
I see. Okay. Well, at least I can say I've definitely seen parents who gave a child, one of their children, to the husband or wife's parents, and the child was brought up as the child. It just was brought up by the grandparents. Anyway, I don't know if, well, here Prabhupada says that, such a system may be adopted by mankind also, which basically means that Srila Prabhupada seems to feel it could be done nowadays. Anyway, an interesting phenomenon. Of course, here, Manu, I read the purport of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Srila Prabhupada refers to, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Manu was omniscient. he was, he had some super consciousness. And of course, Manus are considered particular types of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at least particular types, Manvantara, avatars. So they must have some special qualities. Feel free to use the seats. You could, okay, whatever. Just sisterly relationship there. It's nice. Yeah, so Manu Swayambhuva is certainly not an ordinary human like us. And like we said, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he is omniscient, so he knew that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was going to be taking birth shortly from the womb of his own daughter. And Manu wanted to have the Lord as his son. So therefore he made this arrangement. It's just, you could say, an unusual version of such an arrangement. The arrangement is called, the term is there in the verse, and Prabhupada uses the term in the purport, Putrika Dharma. Dharma, it's a form of dharma. It's not just simply a social arrangement. That by execution of religious rituals one gets a son, although one is sonless by one's own wife. Anyway, Vedic culture, old Vaishnav culture is something very special and very amazing in different ways. So Putrika Dharma exists. I also just did a little search now. The only time, the only place where the term Putrika Dharma is used is in this verse and purport. It's the only, in so many literatures which we have here. And it appears in this verse, of course, directly, and in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's, in the verse and his purport to this verse, he uses the term. So, of course, one interesting point is that having sons as opposed to having daughters, it's one thing to consider on the transcendental platform. Every living entity is a spirit soul, what to speak of male and female human beings. But of course, in all species of life, male, female, they're all transcendental personalities. Down the bottom there, where I used to stay, we have 2 tamal trees. On the left is a male, and on the right, in front of Ramanuja Prabhu's rooms, is a female, right? Yeah. On the left is a male, on the right is a female. Interesting. In the tree species, you get men and women also. And that the female one on the right, well, I haven't been down there now since I've been here, but during summer, it produces fruits, which look like little mandarins, tangerines, little orange fruits. I don't know if they're edible, I never tried, but anyway, there they are. So there is this idea or concept that having sons for a married couple, having sons is particularly desirable. It's definitely there. And here we see it, that it's actually, just leaving aside Manu himself and his desire for a son who is the supreme personality of Godhead, just putting that aside, just the practice of Putrika Dharma, as mentioned here, is that one gets a son, although one is sonless, by one's own wife somehow. Sometimes it works out like that. So as Prabhupada says in the beginning of the purport, sometimes a sonless person offers his daughter to a husband on the condition that his grandson, the son of the daughter, in other words, be returned to him to be adopted as a son and inherit his property. We know there's the Vedic practice that the daughters, they are given their inheritance, you could say, in the form of what's called dowry at the time of their marriage. But the sons inherit at the end when the father passes away, and the daughter doesn't inherit. Well, you may or may not know, but this whole practice of dowry in India, it's still going on. But it's become a whole Kali Yuga mess. It's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Actually, dowry was made illegal in India some, 30 or 40 years ago, or even maybe 1960s perhaps. It was made illegal, but I was just reading a week or couple of weeks ago maybe how these people were saying that in at least 60% of marriages now, dowry still happens, and it becomes like a whole contentious thing that in order to get the boy's family to accept the girl as to be the wife of the boy, the father of the girl has to promise a certain amount of dowry, which is usually not insubstantial at all, like, a nice car, a new one, and Krishna. And if they don't satisfy the boy's family with the dowry, then there's a thing called dowry killings. Have you heard about that? Dowry killings. Don't read the news too much, I tell you. It's too depressing and disgusting, actually. It's really out of this world, but unfortunately it's in this world. They kill the girl. This happened, at least it happened, it definitely happens. Yeah, it happens. And it was a report I was reading about that, and the couple of cases of young wives, after a year or something like that of marriage, they end up dead in mysterious ways. One, the husband, being dissatisfied, got a snake to bite his wife. The first time the snake failed, and it was taken just to be, because snakes, in India you get plenty of snakes. And so, she got bitten by a snake, but she survived, fortunately. But some months later, she was bitten by a snake again and didn't survive. And they figured out the husband had sent the snake. And I remember walking through Vrindavan town a few years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, walking from the Madan Mohan temple. You go down and then you go up to the left to the Banki Bihari temple, which is very extremely popular temple and very active temple. And written on a wall in Hindi was Dowry Narak hai, which means dowry is hell, right? Dowry is hell, yeah. Dowry Narak hai. Because, it's really, but in these days, it was like, the men were gentlemen and the ladies were real ladies of character and quality. And so the girl would be given a nice dowry. We read when Devaki was married to Vasudev, the dowry she got was, by today's standards, just millions, a whole lot of elephants. I think elephants are expensive. I know they're expensive to maintain. They're fantastically. We thought of getting an elephant here once. You didn't know about that? Yeah, we thought of putting the elephant down the bottom and having elephant rides. But then, African elephants are not suitable because they're too difficult to tame. And Indian elephants, it was just too much to bring an elephant from India. So you may have noticed we didn't get an elephant. But we thought about it. We had a couple of meetings about it back in the old days. So anyway, she got all these things and horses and maidservants. I can't remember the number, but it might be in the hundreds or something like that. Just, Yeah, so it was done in very cultured ways with real consideration and out of real affection and love, and accepted by the family of the young husband in the same mood. Yeah, and not just some sort of wheeling and dealing type of thing for the husband's family to get as much as they can out of the girl's family. But still, the point is there that there's this, at least in Vedic culture, or according to Shastra, after the death of the parents, particularly the sons, the son or sons, can perform different rituals and ceremonies and things which will help the parents to achieve better situations in their next lives. Yeah, that's there. Whereas at least traditionally, it appears that daughters would not really do that, isn't it? Something like that. And therefore, there was a particular appreciation for having sons, for married couples, this idea that we would prefer a son or some sons rather than daughters is there. Yes. Of course, on the transcendental platform, we have enough experience to know that lots of sons are just, in such terms, in terms of religion and benefit and these types of ideas, there's so many useless sons in the world, in this world. And in terms of advancement in Krishna consciousness, there are so many daughters who are just much better and much more beneficial for the family, for the parents and other family members. Daughters, yeah, through their advancement in Krishna consciousness. Because the parents share the advancement of the children, and it seems they share in the advancement of both male and female children, not just male. Although in terms of material varnashram and material elevation to higher planets and all these types of ideas, sons are better able to are better able to facilitate the parents being elevated. Yeah, there's Pitriloka. Pitri meaning the forefathers. And there's this Pitriloka, it's a specific planet in every universe where parents who have died and not been able to achieve any higher destination materially in the next life due to their own karma. But what we've read is that if the son or sons do those types of pujas and rituals which are prescribed in Shastra, like material Shastra, not transcendental Shastra, but then the parents who, by dint of their own karma, would not get good situation in their next life. But specifically, if the son or sons do the right form of pujas, ceremonies, rituals, then the parents, the deceased parents, they then go to Pitriloka. It's particularly for parents who have not been able to get situated in a nice planet in their next lives. It's specifically for them when their son or sons do those types of pujas, they then go to Pitriloka, the planet of the forefathers. But the planet of the forefathers doesn't mean all the forefathers, because there's loads and loads and loads of forefathers who go to different places in their next lives. But the ones who go to Pitriloka are the ones who otherwise were not doing well, but their sons did the appropriate pujas. Then they went to Pitriloka, which is considered a type of heavenly planet. Yes. So anyway, for us as devotees, I've even heard of devotee families. I mean, maybe at least once or twice, I've heard of devotee families who gave a child, one of their children, to one of the parents or grandparents. So these things happen, can happen. Such a system may be adopted by mankind also. And so Prabhupada says, thus, even though one has a son, excuse me, if one wants to have a particular son from one's daughter, one may give one's daughter in charity on that condition, and it's Jiva Goswami's opinion that this can be done. So, for us though as devotees, it's not really important. And even the difference between sons and daughters is not important. They're all children of Krishna and deserve to be brought up very nicely as devotees by their parents. And I mean, we observe all sorts of phenomena, but one phenomenon I've noted is that on our internet japa sessions, which are still going on, that the numbers, that we get a few children regularly. We get a few children regularly. They chant japa with us every day. And they're just really nice. But the great majority are girls. And, frankly, the great majority of devotees who chant japa with us are ladies. So that must say something. Could easily say something. So really, for us as devotees, of course, we have to be conscious of the bodily situations of the different devotees and associate appropriately. That is definitely there, because that's definitely there. But otherwise, in principle, we accept that that all devotees are transcendental personalities, and all devotees have the potential for making spiritual advancement. Any devotee has the potential for making Krishna conscious advancement as any other devotee. And therefore, in these types of terms, we don't really, it's not really an issue, put it that way. Yeah. As long as the devotees are sincere and ready to serve, that's the main thing. And interested in progressing in Krishna consciousness and helping the development of the movement, such devotees we want. And such devotees are beneficial to Prabhupada's movement, and such devotees are also beneficial to their parents, be they embodied in male or female bodies. So therefore, occasionally I get a message from some lady who says, I get so many messages, but occasionally I get a message from a lady who expresses some lamentation that, oh, I've got a female body, oh gosh. This sort of idea. Seriously, not often, but it definitely happens. But I always write back. I always write back, that's the first thing. But I always write back and say that, don't talk yourself into a problematic situation which doesn't exist. By Krishna's grace, you've taken birth as you've taken birth. And by Krishna's grace, you've got the opportunity for devotional service. Whereas so many others haven't got the opportunity. So just embrace the opportunity wholeheartedly. And don't become bewildered by the bodily situation. Of course, it's one of the great challenges in Krishna consciousness anyway. There's so many ways a person can become bewildered by the bodily situation. So many ways. But we have to, as Lord Krishna instructs us right at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, we have to accept that we're not these bodies and live the life of not being this body. Although in certain terms, in terms of etiquettes and dealings and relationships, we have to bear it in mind. But otherwise, we should embrace whatever situation the Lord's put us in and just dedicate ourselves to serving Him in those terms. Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Yes.
Maharaj, I was wondering, who are Subhadra's parents?
Who are?
Subhadra.
Subhadra.
Who's her parent?
Parents. Subhadra's parents are Vasudeva and Devaki. After, if I remember correctly, after they were freed, after Krishna killed Kamsa, then, as I recall, but they're definitely her parents. Yes. The Yoga Maya who Vasudeva brought back when he swapped Krishna for the girl child, that's not Subhadra. That's Yoga Maya, different person. Yeah, but Subhadra is Krishna's sister. Yes. And she's the daughter of Vasudeva and Devaki. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.